customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. This week's episode comes from a keynote John delivered at the Customer Service Revolution Conference in Cleveland on November 8th, 2022. In this presentation, How to Turn the Great Resignation into the Great Retention, you'll learn how the brands that will survive the Great Resignation era will be the ones who remained relentless with their hiring standards, how to create a recruitment experience, how to make your interview process ungameable, how to create an onboarding experience, the importance of developing the whole person, and the power of purpose. Now here's your host, John DiJulius.
I'm happy to bring back to the stage the host with the most, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John DiJulius.
How is day 2 going? I have promised you we've saved the best for last. Okay.
Let me just review this with you. You have 6 bridesmaids. You ordered 6 of the silk chiffon Antoinette dresses in pink. The wedding is in 3 days, and the dresses just arrived all in charcoal gray, which we don't even sell, so that is a bit of a mystery. Okay, here's what we're going to do about this. I'm going to call the vendor and have this fixed today. I will personally see the dresses before they are FedExed, and I promise you they will be at your front door by 9 a.m. Friday, okay? You know what, let me give you my cell just in case. 718-555-0199. Oh, thank you so much for your patience. And I am going to refund you back all your money. Yes. No. Okay, hey, you check this one off your list. Okay, this is done. And Rachel, have a great wedding. Oh my God, how did that happen?
Jules?
I know, I'm late for something.
Yeah, everything.
You see why I take customer service calls? I mean, it's so good. You learn so much. Okay, what's up? What am I doing?
Okay, Cam.
As leaders, we have to be putting ourselves in the customer-facing roles to see what the customer's experiencing, to not only see what the customer's experiencing, but to see how hard, easy, frustrating the job is of our customer-facing people. Earlier this year, DoorDash announced that every corporate employee, engineer to CEO, had to make food deliveries 1 day a month because their number one customer is their DoorDash drivers. So they had to see what the DoorDash drivers are dealing with, and maybe the angry customers if the orders are cold or screwed up, and then the restaurant is another stakeholder in that. All right, so we're coming off the Great Retention. How? Build a world-class employee experience and create your signature experience. First thing we need to do is develop great leaders. Okay, recruit them. People already on your team, recharge them, because chances are the past 2.5 years, we have sucked the energy out of our leadership, have thrown them back on the front lines to cover staff shortages, to help with the increase in sales and the decrease in our staffing. And while our leaders are great, that's not what they signed up to do when they became leaders. So, and they also have dealt with the 2 things that the previous 1,000 years, no leader really had to worry about. It's not in any management courses. It's not in any management leadership training, maybe up until now. One of them is leading from a distance. That was never something we had to worry about. Right? Remote work. And number 2 is recognizing employee wellness. Those are new leadership dynamics, but we got to start with them and make sure they're well and they're recharged. Teach them to be human first, leader second. Human first, productivity second. And teach them to have incredible empathy. The brands that will survive the Great Resignation will be the ones who remain relentless with their hiring standards. Let me say that again. Will remain relentless with their hiring standards. Even though we may be desperate, let's keep that between us. I showed that to someone yesterday, and I don't know if they didn't see it or they just said, they were like, what's wrong with that?
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publisher?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. You know, the big ones.
All right. Who would hire her right now? Come on. All right, better yet, who has hired her in the past 2 years? And everything I've been talking about today and yesterday, I don't know if I made it clear that we've been guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. Someone said yesterday, weren't you worried about pissing off all the CEOs when you showed that video of the CEO disproportionate salaries? I'm like, no, because it pissed me off too as a CEO. I didn't like it. A lot of the stuff we're doing too, so I don't want anybody to think we're judging here. All right, I'm going to say the easiest thing is to say the hardest thing to do, but we need to do it when it's appropriate. It's better to lose the sale than the reputation. As a CEO, as a founder of 4 companies, I want growth. I want 10 times growth. Nothing is more intoxicating to an entrepreneur or a leader than growth. But sometimes growth is the worst thing you can do for a company long term, right? If I just service you in whatever the business is with anyone I can find to service you, I will never recover from the reputation. You will be doing brand terrorism about us on Yelp, on social media, about to anyone you know. Right? It's better to lose the sale than the reputation, because there's something about turning people away, say, not right now, we're fully committed. We're, first opening is first quarter of next year. That's better. People want to work with you more when they can't get in with you than just taking anyone at any time and giving them anyone. A players only. In some industries, they say, rock star is worth 8 to 10. One rock star is worth the productivity of 8 to 10. 8 to 10 other employees. So our goal, right? We talked about incorporating AI, automate everywhere we can, is we want less people paid more. And the whole thing is we want lower total labor costs per revenue. That's the goal. This past year, 2022 is the DiJulius Group's best year ever. We doubled our sales. But we've also had to turn down probably more business than ever because we still have the exact same staff we had last year at half the sales, right? So we've had to walk away from business. Hopefully, it'll be later on, but we had to turn it away because we just did, business has just been so good. A players only. Less people paid more. So the Great Resignation turns into the great opportunity. Never before. Think about when you were graduating, when you were switching jobs. How many interviews did you go on? Usually people seeked out 1 or 2 ideal jobs, interviewed, hoped that they got it. If they didn't, maybe they definitely continued. Now, employees know it's an employee market. So they'd be fools to only interview 1 place. Why not interview 6? See who has the best offer. That's why everything we do, externally, internally, has to be an experience. So if I'm interviewing at 5 different places, they may be all in the same industry, they may be all in different industries. It doesn't matter, it's still your competition for talent wars. You got to make sure that the recruitment experience everywhere else is a joke compared to your recruitment experience. We have to have a recruitment experience. First thing, make it overwhelmingly obvious what you stand for. It needs to turn them on or turn them off. So if I go to your career pages on your website, wherever you advertise career opportunities, is it so black and white, your culture, that I could say no thanks or oh my God, I don't want to interview anywhere else? It has to be that black. It can't just be like, like everything else. We're great at customer service. Everyone says that. We're great. We have opportunities. I'll show you what black and white looks like. So if you remember Arnie Mulham, he's spoken here twice, wrote the book Worth Doing Wrong, phenomenal book. He's all about culture. He grew 3 businesses, highest rated speaker every year he speaks here, all about culture. So if you've seen him, you know his amazing culture he breeds there. And I'm going to show you a video, his recruitment video. It's 10 years old. And the reason why it's 10 years old is because he sold all 3 of his businesses. He's done that well. So that's why I just wanted you to understand why you're going to see a 10-year-old video. But my point to this is when you went to that 10 years ago, when you went to his website, you'd immediately know if you want to apply or not. There's no gray area here on what type of culture they have. That's 1 30-second sampling, but already just in that sampling, I guarantee you the people, everyone in this room either knows, yeah, not so much, that's not for me, or I kind of dig that. Like that is exact. That's what we want. We want to turn people on or turn people off. We don't want to be for everyone. I call this a 30-foot high fence with barbed wire on it. It's our job to protect the culture of our existing employees. Another great one is Atlassian, a technology company. The U.S. headquarters is in San Francisco. Their recruitment video is probably a 5-minute, 6-minute video on their core values. I'm only going to show you 20 seconds. But you're going to know immediately if this is the type of atmosphere for you or not by the way they make their video core values come to life.
Open company, no bullshit.
The funny thing about Atlassian is that everybody is really passionate about what they're doing. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants what's better for the user.
It's not just about doing the work that you do. It's also about like hanging out with the people here, and it's like being part of a big family.
Don't the customer. So initially, I think when people come from more traditional corporate style environments, they're just kind of like a little shocked initially.
Don't the customer, when I think that, it forces me to step out of my engineering mindset, thinking about the intimate details of the problem, and to think if I was a person in front of a computer using this, how would it affect me?
I'm not judging it. Again, it's just, but you immediately know. It has to turn you on or turn you off. And part of it, the most valuable thing is, you don't want to waste time if you know our culture isn't for you. Find it out beforehand so we don't invest 3 hours, 3 different interviews with you interviewing until then you start feeling the culture, lack of culture, and say, this isn't for me. Let's get that out of the way. Multiple interviews. I don't care how desperate you are. Multiple interviews. And have multiple team members involved. And they don't have to be in leadership. Because the more you get team members involved, the more they become a part of it, the more they own it. And the other thing is they become they get friends. So I helped interview Amanda here, and now she's starting, and now Amanda has cool friends, that she already knows that have some seniority here. Shadow Day is huge. We've been doing this for close to 30 years. It's mandatory. You have to shadow us, and you have to shadow us, depending on what business, on the craziest, busiest hour, day, afternoon, evening, whatever. So, because we want you to see what our 50th date looks like, not our first. The first date, we're opening the door, paying for things, right, being kind. What do we do on the 50th date? That's probably a little bit more realistic. I forgot my wallet. You can get the door yourself. Whatever that may look like. So we want you to see us at the worst we possibly can be, right? Peak season, peak hour, when it's crazy. And that's where people either walk away saying, that's not for me, or I loved it. It was organized chaos. But we tell them that's their opportunity to interview us. Interview as many people, talk to as many people. But our staff will come back and say, I really liked her. She couldn't just watch me work. She started helping me. I said, no, you're just here to, she could not sit there. The other person says, hey, how many days, weeks before we get vacation time? Do we have dental? Yeah, if you don't retain customers, we knock your teeth out. And you could tell. But we never tell a shadow person how long they have to stay. And some people literally stay 5 minutes and say, can I leave? Yeah, you can leave. Some people say 2 hours. But it's their opportunity to interview us. I think we've talked about the day in the life. Hopefully everyone by now knows what the day in the life is. The day in the life was originally, and most of you have a day in the life, was originally created for orientation, new employee training, and ongoing. But some of our clients started showing it on the interview process. But they wouldn't tee it up. They would just let you watch it and see how you reacted. Some people were stone cold, like, okay, what else? And other people were moving, needed Kleenex, and say, I know this is why I want to work here. Show career path opportunity. Rags to riches story. You all have them. Every one of my companies today has an owner of them, a managing partner that started over 20 years ago at the lowest front end, entry level, receptionist, esthetician, whatever that may be. Let people know that this doesn't have to be temporary. I love asking this. I always ask people, how many people got in this industry? If it's one industry, how many people got in this industry 10, 20, 30 years ago thinking this was a temporary transitional job, and it turned out to be your career? And over 50% raised their hand. Those are the stories you got to tell. Because employees come in and say, well, I'm going to be a teller, I'm going to be a receptionist, I'm going to be a nail tech, whatever, administrator. Nicole started off as my executive assistant 10 or 11 years ago. Tomorrow, literally tomorrow, she starts as a customer experience consultant. We got to share those stories so people don't say, well, I could be an executive assistant for the next 30 years and get a gold watch. No, if you help us grow and you attack that. What investment did they make? Who said it yesterday? They said it was great. About why do you want to work here? God, I'm losing my mind. I loved who spoke about that yesterday. Why? It might have been Ryan. Why Chick-fil-A? Find out how much research they've done on your brand. Savannah Bananas. He spoke here a few years ago, rocked it. I don't know if you pay attention to him and the Savannah Bananas. They're on ESPN. They're doing world tours. They no longer just stay in Savannah and play. They're playing at Fenway and in Cleveland and all over. Sell out everything. They're not a professional baseball team. They still sell out. So 3 people I asked about recruitment experience was Ryan Mannion from Chick-fil-A, Arnie Mulham from CJ Advertising, and then Jesse Cole from Savannah Bananas, because their culture is so unique. How do you recruit? Well, they make people do video cover letters. Okay, so if you want a job here, you have to send us a video cover letter. See how hard you work, how creative you are, your energy. This girl who did her thing, she actually goes to the Savannah Banana Stadium and shoots the
Hi, my name is Ashley Nelson, and I am applying for the Director of Events position with the Savannah Bananas.
She has the baseball song playing in the background.
I know that I would be a great
Very
fit
creative.
because I'm organized, detail-oriented, and big picture-driven. I have extensive experience in public relations as well as marketing and events. I can successfully handle multiple tasks.
So they say they watch these videos and say, would you like to hang out with that person? That's how they determine if they want to hire someone. Okay? What investment did they make? Tie the brand's purpose directly to their job. We started talking about this yesterday. And in every presentation, there was a common theme, that purpose that people want to rally around. And it's not generational specific. The only thing I don't like about this quote is that it says millennials and Gen Zs. I think the currency for employees is purpose. So what do these following things have in common? Your children playing a high school sport, volleyball, wrestling, tennis, swimming, okay? You donate time for a political campaign, right? The time of the year where you're out and you're trying to help your candidate win, knocking on doors, canvassing, whatever that looks like. You give a whole weekend or multiple weekends to help a charity, build a house for Habitat, whatever that may look like. Or you're a youth sports coach. What do those things have in common? Well, none of them get paid. Most of them, I'll say none of them, have a future of getting paid, right? She's not going to go pro volleyball. I don't think those people are going to turn into home builders and start a company. I don't think the other person is going to be a career politician if she's volunteering to help someone get elected. And I doubt that most youth coaches are going to end up in the NFL and Major League Baseball, whatever. But man, are they passionate. Man, did each of these groups make crazy sacrifices that have no logic. You're not getting paid and you're giving up 2-3 hours. I have kids, right? So do you, that have played scholastic sports. And they're getting up at 5:30 to get a morning run in, a workout in on their own. Off season, they're doing 2-a-days. They're trying to get back from an injury or surgery sooner. Why? They're not getting paid, and they have no chance of ever making money in that because they're part of something bigger. They have literally a team, us against the world, that they'll make extreme sacrifices for. That's what Zappos, Amazon, Chick-fil-A, Apple, and many of you do in this room, but you do one thing a little better. You pay them. Create that scenario. That's what the best world-class cultures do, is they create those same scenarios that those 4 groups do, but they pay them.
At the DiJulius Group, we know how difficult it is to provide an outstanding customer experience, especially when expectations are so high. That's why we created a framework that systematizes the experience you deliver. Our consultants use that framework as they work with your team to create a world-class brand experience that can be delivered simply and consistently, without affecting productivity or adding special software. Are you ready to be world-class? Visit tdg.click/Claudia to schedule a call and get started today. That's tdg.click/Claudia.
People want to be part of something larger than themselves. They want to be a part of something they're proud of, that they'll fight for, sacrifice for, and that they trust. Power of purpose. So I kept on hearing, and I'm sure you've heard this too, before I did the research, that there is a significant portion of healthy people, when they retire, they die within a few years. Talk about that. And I don't think any of our purpose, our identity should be tied up just in our careers. But what does that say? That people, a significant percentage of people die shortly after retirement. That's scary. But it also shows how important that part of our life is to us. 89% of people who retire at 55 versus 65 die within 10 years. If you retire at 55 versus 65, 90% die within 10 years compared to if you retire at 65. I want to repeat that because I want my staff to hear that. 90% of you will die if you retire. That's pretty scary, right? The power of purpose. We got to make our interview process ungameable, because anyone can fool it for 30 minutes. I know what you're going to ask me. I know you're going to say, John, can you tell us what your 2 major drawbacks are? Yes, I'm a perfectionist and I'm a workaholic. Bam, I nailed that, right? So it's like they say the best interviewers are like the best pickup artists, right? That they have that game for 15, 20 minutes, but it's the long term that you got to worry about. So the best companies have an interview process that you actually don't know. The interview started, or you don't know what's being judged. Nicole, before we get started, I see that you're from, tell me about, do you know? And she doesn't realize she's on the clock, and she lets her guard down, right? The best interview process is like Columbo. Just seems like a bumbling idiot, but you don't know. So here's some great techniques. Group interviews. We used to do 30 years ago, if we were looking for one candidate and we interviewed 6 people, we'd spend 6 hours. Not a good use of our time. So the first interview, we have 6 people come in, 1 hour, 6 people. And we'll just go around and say, we're going to ask you all the same questions and just answer them. And so we'll say, tell us a time when you went above and beyond. Tell us a time where you were in a situation. Tell us a time. And we can care less about the answer. Now, the employees think that they're being judged on who has the best answer. So they're focused on, all right, I'm gonna crush that story. I'm gonna crush that story. What we're really looking for, what the interviewer is really looking for, is what are they doing when they're not talking? Are they peeking at their Apple Watch, their phone, thinking about what they're gonna say? Or are they smiling at what she just said? Because it was funny. And she's engaged and she's making her feel here for you, like Marcus just said. That's what we're looking at. The 5 E's. Companies count this. How many times did they smile? How many times did they show enthusiasm? How many times did they make eye contact? Now, do not do this unless you're 100% positive that the interviewer is doing this. I cannot hold you accountable if I'm not doing it. If I'm like, tell me a time when, she's going to match that. But if you know your interviewer has the enthusiasm, making eye contact, showing all those things, and they're not matching it, especially when you find out something that you're passionate about and she doesn't get excited, she's not going to be passionate about anything. I love what the CEO of Charles Schwab does when it's an executive C-suite interview. Walter Benningen Jr., when it's a C-suite interview and he's involved, you have to meet him at his favorite diner. In his favorite diner, they know that anything you order, they screw up. It's called the wrong order test. Nicole orders French toast. She's getting hash browns and scrambled eggs. Everything is screwed up. She wants ketchup. She gets mustard and Tabasco sauce. And you see how she handles herself in that situation. How she treats the server. Pret-a-manger, I love what they do. Existing employees get to vote on who gets hired. So you've seen Samantha. She's been in the past couple days. Everyone should have met her. A couple of you actually interviewed her. What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Why? Because bonuses are awarded on performance of the whole team. So a bad hire will cost the whole team their quarterly bonus potential. Make it an investment so when it's of everyone else, they become the guardians of your culture. Okay, that's just some examples for a recruitment experience. Now we've hired you. Now you've been hired. You need to have an onboarding experience. So many people pale in this, and I'm going to talk about this later, where it's called customer experience, or experience is won and lost in the transitions. This is a transition when it goes from maybe HR, the interview, to your direct supervisor. So what traditionally happens, what can happen in a lot of places, I know we've been guilty of this. You interview with Ashley, Denise, whoever it is, 4 times, and you make that connection with Ashley or Denise, and that's who you accepted a job from. You want to work because the way you connected with Ashley, all the things she told you, the rags to riches, everything about the culture you want. Well, you get hired, and Ashley goes away. And you show up Monday at, Brittany's location. And someone, you walk in and you're like, hi. And she's like, how can I help you? I'm your new whatever. You say, what? I didn't know we hired anybody. And she's booked solid and she has no time for this. And you have no computer there. You have no equipment. And there's egg on her face and she's a little frustrated. And you're that warm and fuzzy honeymoon phase just went away. Ashley's no longer there, who you connected with, and this person, your supervisor, looks like, they don't want any part of you. So what's an onboarding experience look like? Reorientation. I learned this from the Ritz-Carlton and a bunch of other companies. Every time we have a new employee orientation, we'll have 8 to 10 people there. 5 of them will be brand new employees. 5 of them will be existing employees. You have to go through orientation every other year. So if you were hired in 2019, you'll have to reorientate in 2021, 2023, 2025. Several reasons. One, our orientation better be significantly better than it was 2 years ago. But it gets you connected. It reminds you where we've come from, what it took to get here, and where we're going. This is I'm telling you, the next 2 things I'm sharing, this and the next one, are the best practices we've ever done. And we learned them from someone else. Now you have 10 people. And again, 5 of them are the cool kids, popular kids that you're connecting with. So you don't feel like that awkward freshman when you start work next week and you got 16 eyes or 64 eyes staring at you. And you're like, Amanda was in my orientation class and, so was he and that. But the experienced people, returning, reorientate, take over the class. Oh, you are so lucky. When I started, we had to walk here, uphill, both ways in the snow, and you got it made. But they do. They start to. But I'll tell you, I will get notes and letters and texts and emails from people who reorientate saying, John, I was in orientation again this past week with new employees, and it made me realize and remember how special this job is. Like, it just reawakens your existing employees. The other one I love is a scavenger hunt. Learn this from a lot of world-class companies. So typical orientation is a day or 2 days spent on how not to get fired. Right? How exciting is that? Hey, how was your first 2 days? Well, I understood that if I'm late 3 times, I get fired. If I chew gum, I get fired. If I say this, I get fired. That's not an inspiring orientation, right? Let's talk about how to be successful. So we do, obviously, like everyone, we have those things that we have to kind of educate you on of what could send your career south. But the way we've done it is we've taken that, if you chew gum, you'll get fired. If you do this, you'll get fired. Whatever those look like. And we've made it into a scavenger hunt. And then we send you at teams of 2 or 3 and go to different locations that we have and find out the answers to these 24 things. Okay, so you walk in with this pad. And what happens, the existing staff at the location knows who you are. When you walk in with a pad and a pen, they know you're rookies. But they all go up and say, I'm Rachel. What do you got there? Oh, it's him right there, right? Because when we know the answers, we feel smart. So if I've been doing this. I see people walking around playing this game. And I say, I can help you. No, I can't help you. Sorry, right? But we like to be smart. So there's one story of why never to chew gum. And this is a lot more memorable than me just saying, don't chew gum. So one of the questions is, can you tell me why we're not supposed to chew gum? I know it's probably obvious, but why? Yeah, because about 28 years ago, we had a hairdresser shampooing someone, and she was chewing gum. Guess what happened? Out of her mouth into the client's mouth. And she asked for the gum back. She goes, I just started that. It still had a lot of flavor left, right? But isn't that a better way to remember why you shouldn't chew gum than don't chew gum? So it's a bunch of stuff like a lot of trivia. Who's the person that got arrested in high school for, fun stuff? Whose nickname was Stinky? Who holds the record for the most sales in a day? And you got to go around. Love this. I forget who I just heard this from. Just heard it on a podcast. Give people sound bites. Because when you start a new job, remember when you started a new job or you got promoted, you telling everyone, your social network, your family at the holidays. Nicole, I heard you started a new job. Tell me about it. But a lot of times employees will fumble. Oh, I sweep hair. I'm a receptionist. Whatever. Help them be able to articulate the 1 or 2 sentences that makes them feel proud and does a little advertising for your business. Ooh, that sounds like a cool job. I want to explore that. And we have found that we had very low turnover, but our turnover typically existed in the first 90 days. Now, this may be different for people, but for us, the turnover we'd have, the majority of it happened in the first 90 days. Why? Because it was overwhelming. We were throwing so much at people. And I don't care who you are. You come into my business, start my business. I come to your business, start your business. Either one of us, we're both the dumbest person that works here. Right? I mean, I don't know about your terminology. I don't know where you keep stuff. And so you're sending me, John, go get us this. What is that? And where do you keep it? Oh, forget it. I'll get it myself. Ooh, I'm going home a little defeated. I don't feel as inspired as what Ashley was telling me about. So you want to help touch and keep them and pick them up in the first 90 days. Train the whole person. This is, I think, a big benefit of the pandemic. Just don't train me to how I could be a better producer for you. The 5 F's are typically the most popular thing on people's New Year's Eve resolutions. Okay? So this is what all of us work on maybe we quit by January 2nd, but we had good intentions, right? So when we know that these 5 F's are the most popular things people want to work on in their life, bring in resources for them. Okay, so it's going to be finances. Bring in a mortgage lender. Bring in a money management advisor. People ask me all the time, how do I get my employees to work more? You want to know how? Have them buy their first house. In 2019, because we brought in mortgage lenders, for anyone that was interested, 19 people bought their first house. They're coming to work tomorrow, right? Fitness, family, faith. And that could be anything you want. In my world, it's just making you stay positive, not getting sucked down the doom scrolling, teaching you how not to, with all the craziness and decisiveness in the world today. And fun. Bring in different outside experts. You don't have to pay them because typically it leads to a bunch of potential customers for them. And not everyone has to attend it, right? If you're good in your family and relationship, you don't have to attend that Zoom webinar, or when we're having a company meeting, we're going to have someone speak on that. Help people find your ikigai, their ikigai. Japanese word for finding your calling in life. 4 things have to match. You got to find something that you absolutely love to do. But that's not enough. You have to be great at it. Not necessarily today, but you can see yourself, because you love it so much, being great at it. What is something you love to do, but you can't be great at? Anybody know what that's called? Golf. What's something you are great at, but you don't love to do? Job. Right? So find something you love to do, help your employees find something you love to do that they can be great at, that they can make a great living, that adds a positive impact on society. Now, a lot of times, it's in our company, and that's great. We have a lot of people that are on their 6th or 7th different job, different department, sometimes different company within the brands, because they're so valuable, but they didn't like the first job they had. It wasn't fulfilling, but they love the culture, the brand, the company, so they stayed. Sometimes it's a completely different organization, different career that we help them get there. But I'll tell you what, whether they stay for 6 months or 6 years, they are loyal. They see that you're helping them get there, and then they send you a ton of clients and future employees. Charlie Kim, founder of Next Jump, says, if you had hard times in your family, would you ever consider laying off one of your children? I didn't know that was an option. And does it only have to be one? Right? Couldn't I let 2 of the 3 go? As a result, In 2012, Next Jump initiated Employment for Life policy. You will never get fired for performance issues. Now that's a big thing, right? Get fired for chewing gum or being late or having a bad attitude or unprofessional, but you'll never get fired for performance issues. We will work with you. We will look in the mirror. We'll relocate you to a different team. Their motto is no brilliant jerks allowed. Annual sales have increased by 5 times to over $2.5 billion since launching the lifetime employment policy in 2012. Employment for life. All right, by a show of hands, how many people would love to be known as the best at what you do in your industry versus your customer's favorite? How many people? So raise your hand if you'd rather be known as the best, or raise your hand when I ask you if you would rather be known as your customer's favorite to do business with. How many people would want to be known as the best? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people would want to be known as the customer's favorite? All right, let's see what Danny Myers, who owns a hospitality group, one of the top several restaurants in New York City, says about this.
When someone says that you are their favorite version of anything, they're paying you the absolute highest compliment they can pay you. No one said Gramercy Tavern is the best restaurant. We'd like to think we are, and you'd like to think you are, but if somebody says, this is my favorite, that's inarguable. Nobody can say, no, it's not your favorite. And if I say Lexus is my favorite car, it wouldn't be my favorite if it also didn't provide an emotional connection that made me feel awesome. We have competitors out there who actually have higher food scores than we have. And we have a higher favorite rating. We have competitors who have even a higher service score. You know, their waiters wear tuxedos and they do a beautiful job of saucing the fish next to your table, etc. And we have a higher favorite score. So this is not an excuse not to constantly work on our performance. But I think the sum of our performance plus the hospitality experience leads people to say, there's just nowhere I'd rather do business.
I love that. If you say, that Starbucks is your favorite, I can't argue. I can't tell you, no, it's not. I can argue if it's the best because I could probably look up and find taste tests and tell you that, they're second, third, fourth in taste tests. The Great Retention. Great companies help people live amazing lives. Great leaders help their employees and customers reach their fullest potential. They inspire team members to forge lives of meaning and purpose. Let's dominate the Great Retention. Thank you.
Thanks for listening in to this episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, managing partner of the DiJulius Group, and I invite you to send us your questions, post a review, and let us know what you liked and want to hear more of. We're happy that you're part of the Customer Service Revolution and encourage you to subscribe now so you don't miss an episode. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast station.